Hey everyone, bit of a different video today, mostly actually for my own reference, but I figured may as well turn this into a proper video just in case anyone else finds this beneficial. So what I'm testing is a bunch of different AR parts and seeing which one benefits me the most for the amount of gas blowback or back pressure, you know, that I get to my face, to my eye, that I can smell, because I'm doing another AR build. Not this one. I've started a different one that I'm trying to make kind of as optimized as possible. So I'm curious what parts actually are the most beneficial or what, you know, just don't do anything at all. So I've already kind of started this test a few weeks ago. I'll talk about some differences towards the end of the video that I found with piston versus internal or DI. But for this video, what I'm going to be focusing on is different charging handles, different buffer weight springs, all of that sort of thing, and different bolt carrier. Just one. Currently I just have a regular Mil-Spec bolt carrier in here. I'm going to be comparing it to a Lantac, which is actually not going to be happening today. I'll just cut in the footage later just because it's actually still on order. I'm actually not going to be touching the gas system. This is just a fixed front side post and yeah, non-adjustable anyway, but I will just say this whole video is really focusing on the minutia because I have always found the most effect to reduce the amount of gas, of course, coming back at you is to drop the gas at the block, just to have a more consistent test baseline to compare everything else to. So I'm going to start with this, just totally normal Mil-Spec charging handle, Mil-Spec internals. Only difference is, like I said, just has a 16-inch barrel. I'm using a Cat WB, which is already a rather effective reduced back pressure suppressor, but with this setup, I do still get a decent amount of gas to my face. Not terrible, but you know, enough to compare it to. And that is one reason I'm using this build compared to any of my other rifles, because on the other rifles that are already so well tuned, it's actually pretty hard to tell the difference between them. But let's get started. So I'm using all PMC MA55, just good, consistent with every single test. I'm going to be firing at a fairly consistent rate as much as possible, not doing anything too fast and not too slow. Just setting the baseline here. And one more thing, this will be, of course, purely subjective and devoid of any other factors. I am just focusing on the gas that I feel back at me. I'll be quantifying this on a scale of 1 to 10 Govt scores, so I just feel like that makes the most sense because I'm trying to rate reduction to felt gas. So 10 is going to be the most gas, which is going to be with this basic setup. And 1 would be, I feel nothing. It's effectively like shooting unsuppressed. So let's get started. Yeah. All right. Well, that was kind of unpleasant. Definitely feeling it in my eye a little bit. We're going to switch to, I'll go ahead and do a Geissele supercharging handle very first, and then I'll just walk you through each of the different charging handles I got. So here is the Geissele Super. If I sound different, I'm just going to use the onboard microphone. It's actually pretty quiet out here, so you should be able to hear me well. So there it is right there. I'm also going to be testing after this a Geissele Govt, which is usually my own personal favorite charging handle, but there are some issues actually with using it suppressed where it doesn't really do what it's supposed to. This one, you can see how it's supposed to mitigate the gas to your face is it has this little fence at the back, and this is a nice tight fit on the upper receiver. You can see it doesn't really want to walk on its own at all. That last round really blasted me. Let me do a few more. It seems like it's a little bit better, except for that last round, which really blasted back for some reason. I don't know if maybe some oil kind of got in there and really blasted things around, but nah, that's about the same. I'd say that's still a 10. That's not really doing anything. So let's switch. Here's the Geissele Govt profile charging handle. You can see it has those nice rounded edges. Just really like it being a little bit more low profile as far as handling it. But one thing I've always noticed when trying to shoot this suppressed, and I actually haven't even used this charging handle on this upper yet, but noticing the same thing I notice on all my other uppers, and I have a lot of different Geissele Govt charging handles as well, so it's not just like I have one that's out of spec. I have, like I said, several. You can see this actually moves a lot more. Not too much, but it does have more room to play compared to that. It has more room, I should say, for it to move back and forth, even when it's seated and when I'm not, obviously, not delatching it. Just little wobbly. So I think that'll make it even worse. Granted, the super charging handle didn't really feel like it did anything either for me, but I'll just get a few rounds off with this just for the sake of completion. Yeah. All right. So next one I'm going to test out is the Radian SD. So that one, of course, I'll actually show you. It's a fancier type that's supposed to redirect all the gas. You can see has those weird cuts, aggressive looking serrations in the front. First time using this charging handle, period. So we'll see if it does anything. Radian SD SL, if you care about that. Not that that'll make a difference for the suppressed performance. Just messing around with this a little bit already, feeling it has a tiny bit of play, but does feel a bit tighter than that Geissele Govt, so that is good. Let's take a look. I have high hopes for this. Hopefully it doesn't let me down. Yeah, that's definitely a lot better. Cool. Still not great. I am getting a bit of gas to my eye, but I'd say that's probably about half. Again, purely subjective, but it feels like half the amount of gas going back to my face. So that is really cool. I'm gonna mess around now with some different buffers. Usually, for reference, when this rifle is unsuppressed, currently it actually has a really nice ejection pattern going. The 330. Obviously, you already saw how it's ejecting with the suppressor on it. So I'm just gonna watch and see if it does anything different. Gonna be stepping up the buffer from an H1, H2, H3, all with the same spring. I do actually have my HK416 buffer and spring, which just so you can see, there's the H1 buffer, like I said. And this is probably obvious. I was, of course, starting with a carbine or H0 buffer in here. So, all right, focusing on the gas to my face, but really watching the ejection pattern here. So, ejection patterns at about the same spot. And yeah, the gas to my face is about the same too. I'm gonna step it up to an H. Hopefully you can still hear me because it just started pouring. Here is the next buffer, obviously, H2. Actually, it's the last round from the switch magazines. It actually feels a little bit more pleasant. Let me do a few more just to be sure. Yeah, that definitely feels a lot better. Still a bit, I would say. So prior to this, with just this different charging handle, like I said, I'd say it was about a 5 out of 10 on the gas scale, which is a significant decrease from how it felt with just the Mil-Spec charging handle, with Geissele charging handles. Now I'd say it's maybe a 4 or a 3 as far as the gas blowback I'm getting to myself. Actually, I didn't focus on the ejection pattern. I think that was about the same spot. Let me check that one more time. Yeah. The ejection is still about in the same spot. So yeah, I think I'm just going to keep going through all the buffers just for the sake of completion, just to see if any of them do make any difference. One thing I am really curious about now that it's getting pretty comfortable is how much of a difference a stronger spring will make. Like I said, I do have the 416 spring, and that is significantly stronger than your normal carbine spring that you have in an AR. So, but for now, I'm just going to keep stepping through the buffers. Next is H3. Here's the H3. Yeah, that feels even better. Definitely less. That's cool. Let's say this is maybe... So before on the H2 I was kind of fluctuating. I'd say that was probably a 4. This would be a 3 out of 10, so it's getting nice. That is it for my normal buffers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop in the... I'll leave the H3 buffer in for the time being. I'm going to put in the 416 spring, and we'll see if that makes a difference, and I'll finally switch to the 416 buffer as well. So here's the same H3 buffer, HK416 spring. You can see that little bit of red paint, which is wearing off significantly, but there's still some there. I use the 416 buffer and spring on my 10.3 AR, not 416 in that case, and it makes it really, really nice when I'm shooting suppressed. So it's definitely feeling nicer so far. I wouldn't say anything conclusively after only 3 shots. So got another mag in here. Let's see. So yeah, it seems a little bit nicer. I don't even know if I'd say it's a full point better as far as that 1 to 10 grading scale, but marginal, not a huge amount. I'm gonna go ahead and put in the other buffer, the 416 buffer now. One thing I was paying attention to in particular on this one is this definitely did improve the ejection pattern quite a bit. It is kind of going a little bit all over the place, but it's closer to 3 o'clock. Now for the ultra heavy full 416 buffer and spring setup. Yeah, that is the most pleasant. I would say now it's probably at about a 2 out of 10 as far as the gas I'm getting back to my face. So that is impressive. That definitely helps a lot. I shed my jacket because it's getting a little warm now. Doing a little bit of a checkpoint conclusion, if you want to call it that, because I still have to test the other bolt carrier in here when that comes in. But thus far, the 416 buffer and spring are definitely the best. Other than that, the part that actually did make the biggest difference, again, excluding any adjusting of the gas, so I'm not touching it for this test, the charging handle definitely made a huge difference, the Radian charging handle, as far as the gas I was feeling in my eye and smelling. None of these changes have made it feel like it's absolutely unsuppressed, I will say. So going back, if you recall at the very start of the video, I did mention that I already started this test on my own a few weeks ago, just kind of comparing. And what I've done so far, I did test my piston-driven 416s compared to my nicely tuned ARs. Thus far, what I've found is that actually the piston, or external piston, doesn't really make much of a difference at all as far as the gas to my face. I did notice, because I have a side charging AR, and did not get anywhere near as much gas to my face, even with a carbine buffer and spring, compared to any of the rifles I have, whether external or internal piston, that have a T charging handle. One other thing I did test, actually this is outside the realm of an AR, but by far the best rifle I found for suppression is my SLR 104, my 545 AK. That actually is remarkable, and I think that the reason for that is that an AK, of course, has a really loose-fitting dust cover, and it doesn't really seal anything up. So once the bolt unlocks, the gas is just pretty much venting out the sides of the dust cover long before I get any to my face. Yeah, charging handle location. And I've never been a fan of the T charging handle, but it is what it is. Unfortunately, those are the most common on the market. But with that, I'm gonna take a little break here, and I'll come back when I have the other bolt carrier, and we'll see if it makes much of a difference. I will probably be stepping down the buffer spring and buffer weight when I do that, just because right now, when it's suppressed, it'll be pretty hard, I think, to tell the difference, because it's getting to a really comfortable point. So, see you all in a bit. It's been a few days, got lucky, and that other bolt carrier came in, so I have went back to the baseline tabula rasa, pretty much ignore anything that happened up to this point. Everything is back to how it was at the start of the video, just so I can reset the baseline again. That way I have a better comparison to the new bolt carrier. So again, just the standard one for now. Just going to do a few shots just so I remember exactly what it feels like, and then we'll switch to that actual Lantac. All right, now for the Lantac. Just so you can see the Lantac before I do pop it into the rifle here. How this is supposed to help with the gas to the face is you can see that it has this vent right there that is going forward. So it's supposed to push the gas away from the shooter. We'll see how well it actually does. Of course, there's a lot more to this bolt. If you care enough, just go and read their white paper. They have a small novel written on all their alleged benefits of this. So we'll see how well it actually does. I know there's other bolt carriers that are supposed to do the same gas busting sort of thing, but I don't have money for all those, nor do I really care to pick up every single different option. I did already headspace gauge this and everything checks out, so only thing that should be going on is to just see if it's working properly for the amount of gas reduction. Also, I am still using just the regular charging handle. I do want to just point out that assuming this does anything, I'm actually going to keep stepping up, similar to the original test, though not going to do everything again because there's no point. But what I'll be doing is I'll take the Radian, which did the best as far as a gas busting charging handle, and I'll pop in that 416 buffer and spring again, because that all combined, and we'll see how it does. So get started. Lantac E-BCG. I'm actually going to fire at a bit of a closer range so I can keep the fire rate up a bit higher. That seems a lot better, definitely a lot better. I'm trying to think of how to really rate this one properly. So I'm getting a little bit of a smell of gas, a little bit of burning to my eye after that whole long string of fire, but you know, anything before that I'm totally fine. So it's working quite nicely. I would say this is probably a 7 out of 10 as far as the gas reduction, so it's pretty good. I feel like the charging handle did more, but like I said, let's now put all that together. So Radian, 416 buffer and all that. And here it is with everything in it. Let's see how it does. Seems good. Let me get another mag here to get a really good feel for it. That is really nice. So I'm not getting any gas to my face now whatsoever. You can still smell the gas a little bit, which I think is going to be inevitable. But I guess I'm going to do some gratuitous fast shooting here really quick. Just that'll be a really good way to gauge it for as a grand finale. Still no gas to my face, so yeah, that is excellent. All right, I know what parts I'm going to go with for my next build.